Fragment 4Q204 sits in the Shrine of the Book, Jerusalem, sealed behind climate-controlled glass maintained at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Credentialed researchers only, by appointment, since 1967. Inside that manuscript, the angel Uriel leads Enoch to a great mountain in the west and shows him 4 hollow chambers carved into the rock, each chamber sealed by immutable law. No soul crosses between them. Righteous, martyred, sinful, condemned. 4 fates, fixed before history ends. Banned, buried, called dangerous. The Council of Laodicea removed this text from the Western canon in 363 AD. One decree, 1600 years of silence. Then, 1947. A Bedouin shepherd near Qumran reaches into a cave and pulls out something that should not exist. Among 900 Dead Sea Scrolls recovered from those 11 caves, 11 separate Enochian fragments surface. Fragment 4Q204 among them. A text declared forbidden is suddenly the oldest manuscript evidence in the room. And what that text actually describes is not allegory, not poetry, not a vision left deliberately vague. It is a literal map, a cartography of Sheol, specific chambers, specific populations, specific laws governing which souls are sent back into the world and which ones are sealed there permanently, awaiting a judgment that has not yet arrived. In the next several minutes, you will see what Enoch witnessed inside those chambers, what modern consciousness research has independently confirmed about their architecture, and why this knowledge was considered dangerous enough to suppress for 16 centuries. If forbidden biblical history is what you came for, subscribe. Every week, we surface what was removed. The first chamber Enoch enters is described in the 22nd chapter of 1 Enoch, verse 9. The source manuscript is Ethiopic. Bibliothèque Nationale de France. Manuscript designation MS Ethiopian 105. The standard English translation was produced by Michael A. Knibb at Oxford in 1978, and it remains the academic baseline to this day. The Ge'ez text uses the term Nafs Sadakan. 2 words. Nafs means breath, the animating force, what leaves the body at death. Sadakan means aligned with the law, in right standing, calibrated. Together, the phrase does not simply mean good souls or righteous souls in the way we use those words casually. It means souls whose breath is still vibrating in harmony with the governing order of creation. The translation is not metaphorical. It is technical. Uriel tells Enoch that this first chamber is luminous, bright, set apart, fed by a spring of living water that separates it from the other 3 chambers. That detail is precise in a way that should not be possible. The author is describing a subterranean geography with a water source that marks a boundary between regions of differing moral classification. He had no survey equipment, no geology, no framework for underground hydrology as a structural divider. Yet he records it as a witnessed fact, reported testimony from a guide who named the chambers and explained their function. That detail sat untouched for roughly 2,000 years. Then, in 2001, a Dutch cardiologist named Dr. Pim van Lommel published a study in The Lancet, peer-reviewed, prospective, spanning 13 hospitals across the Netherlands over a 4-year period. 344 cardiac arrest patients, clinically dead, resuscitated. 18% reported structured experiences during the interval when their brains showed no measurable activity. The descriptions were consistent across patients who had no prior contact with each other. Luminous environments, distinct regions, a sense of boundary between areas, a threshold that some patients described as a border they were not permitted to cross. Several described moving through a region of intense, sourceless light before being directed back. Not toward darkness, not toward void, toward a structured, luminous space with clear demarcation. Van Lommel's patients were not reading Ethiopic manuscripts in a Paris library. They were in cardiac units in Arnhem and Amsterdam. They had no access to MS Ethiopienne 105. They had no reason to describe a luminous chamber separated by a boundary from other regions. And yet the architecture they reported matches what Uriel showed Enoch with a precision that neither party can explain by borrowing from the other. The ancients called it the luminous chamber of the righteous. Van Lommel's patients called it a region of light. Same structure, same boundary, same direction of return. Different century, different continent, different instrument of record. Nufs Sadakan, souls whose breath remains aligned. Uriel told Enoch these are the ones held in the luminous chamber, preserved, set apart by water from every other fate. Van Lommel's data recorded 344 clinical deaths and found a consistent luminous structure waiting on the other side of the flat line. The text does not say these souls are erased. It does not say they dissolve. It says they are held. Preserved in the bright chamber, near the spring, separate, waiting for a specific moment that the text names but has not yet arrived. But the text doesn't stop at the righteous. It goes deeper into the mountain, into chambers where the light does not reach. The same Ethiopic manuscript that describes the bright chamber, the one held in Oxum, translated by Dr. Michael Knibb at Oxford in 1978, contains a second chamber. And the souls inside it are not resting. They are filing a complaint. The text is precise about this. The passage comes from the 22nd division of 1st Enoch, and the Ge'ez term used for these souls is sahuf. Most translators render this as those who cry out, but that is too soft. The root of sahuf is the same root used for a written legal document, a formal petition, a case lodged with a higher court. These are not souls weeping into the dark. These are souls who have submitted a written complaint to heaven, and they are waiting for it to be adjudicated. Uriel names the cause of their petition. They were slain, killed before their time by the hands of other men, and their murderers are still alive in the world above. The text states this directly. The souls in this chamber cannot return. They cannot re-enter the world. Not yet. Their return is bound. The Ge'ez uses a word that means sealed by a ruling, to the moment of final judgment. Until that verdict is rendered, they remain, held in a chamber that holds the sound of their petition like stone holds heat. He had no mechanism for this. No legal framework for delayed return existed in the ancient Near East in any form that survived. Yet Enoch describes a specific procedural structure, a chamber, a complaint, a ruling, a sealed return date with the precision of a court record. Now consider what Dr. Ian Stevenson documented. Stevenson was a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia. Between 1960 and 2007, he recorded 2,500 cases of children who described verifiable memories of previous lives. He did not work from anecdote. He cross-referenced names, locations, wounds, family members, and cause of death against public records. His methodology was forensic. His findings were published in peer-reviewed journals and in his landmark 1997 volume, Reincarnation and Biology, running to 2,268 pages of case documentation. Here is the number that stops everything. 35% of those 2,500 children described violent deaths in their previous lives. Not illness, not accident. Violent death. And a significant portion of those cases, Stevenson's own language, included what he called an urgent sense of unfinished justice. These children were not simply remembering, they were insisting. They needed something resolved. They named their killers. They described the circumstances. They pushed their current families toward locations, toward people, toward confrontations that had nothing to do with their present lives. Stevenson gathered this data across 47 years. 47 years of field interviews across 49 countries. Enoch recorded a legal mechanism for delayed return. Souls sealed in a chamber, their return bound to a verdict not yet rendered. Stevenson's data, gathered across 47 years and 49 countries, maps onto that same mechanism. The souls who return describe exactly what the text predicts they would describe: a killing, an unresolved case, a petition that has not yet been answered. Same structure, different century. The same mechanism, still operating, still producing the same profile of returning soul. And this is where it gets disturbing. Because the third chamber contains souls that will never file a petition, will never return, will never influence this world again. Fragment 4Q204, column 14. It sits in the collection of the Israel Antiquities Authority in Jerusalem. The parchment is Aramaic, dated to the 1st century before the Common Era. J.T. Millick translated it in 1976 as part of the Dead Sea Scrolls publication series. The fragment corresponds directly to the 10th and 11th verses of the 22nd division in the Ethiopic manuscript. Both texts describe the same chamber, and what they describe is not a waiting room. It is a containment structure. The Ge'ez term for the souls held here is lata'an, translated as sinners. But the root does not mean someone who stumbled or erred by circumstance. The root means those who missed the mark by design, deliberate deviation, intentional departure from the known path. This is not a category for the weak or the confused. This is a category for those who knew and chose otherwise. Uriel's ruling on this chamber is the most severe in the entire text. These souls return once, only once. They re-enter the world for a single purpose: to stand before judgment. Not to live, not to grow, not to resolve anything or carry anything forward. They return to face the verdict, and then they are removed from the cycle, permanently. The Ge'ez uses a word that means excised, cut away, like a portion removed from a document. No further entry, no further petition. The cycle closes behind them. The physical description of the chamber is specific enough to be architectural. No spring. The other chambers have a spring of water running through them. This one does not. No light. The text does not say dim light or faint light. It says the compartment holds no luminous element of any kind. And it is separated from the other three by a partition the text calls a division of stone, not a wall built by hands, a natural division, as if the mountain itself refuses contact between this chamber and the others. This is not metaphor. The text is describing a containment structure with defined physical characteristics: darkness, no water, stone partition. A single-use return policy enforced by divine ruling. The impossible knowledge beat here is this: no ancient cosmology that predates Enoch proposes a category of soul that returns exactly once for judgment and is then permanently excised from the cycle. Egyptian texts allow for reweighing. Mesopotamian texts allow for reassignment. Even later traditions allow for mercy on the far side of judgment. Enoch does not. This chamber has no mercy provision. The ruling is already rendered. The return is only for the formality of its execution. Modern research into near-death experience accounts offers a strange data point. Dr. Pim van Lommel, a Dutch cardiologist, published a prospective study in The Lancet in 2001, tracking 344 cardiac arrest survivors over 8 years. A small but statistically consistent subset, roughly 4%, described not a life review, not a tunnel, not reunion. They described a boundary, a place where they were told they could not proceed and could not stay. They were returned, but they described the return as a removal, not a sending back, a removal from somewhere they were not permitted to remain. Van Lommel's study is peer-reviewed, prospective, and published in one of the most cited medical journals on Earth. The Lata'an chamber holds souls returned once for judgment, then excised. Van Lommel's 4% describe a boundary encounter that ends in removal. Same structural event, separated by 2,000 years of recorded history. But here is what makes this stranger. The fourth category isn't human at all. The text shifts in the 15th division of 1 Enoch, verses 8 through 10, and again in the 10th division, verses 4 through 6. Both passages appear in the Ethiopic manuscript. Both are corroborated by Fragment 4Q201 at the Israel Antiquities Authority, translated by J.T. Millick and cross-referenced by R.H. Charles in his 1906 Oxford edition, still the standard critical text in English. What these passages describe is not a chamber inside the mountain. It is a category of being that operates outside all four chambers entirely. The Nephilim spirits. The Ge'ez term is manifest. It does not simply mean spirits or ghosts. The root construction means those who proceed from an unlawful union. Not an accidental union, not an unknown union, an unlawful one. A union that violated a boundary that was understood to exist. These beings have no heavenly origin. Their fathers descended, their mothers were of the earth. The text states this with the precision of a legal disqualification. Because they carry no heavenly origin, they cannot return to heaven. Because they carry no purely earthly origin, they cannot re-enter the world through normal birth. Their category is permanently closed. No spring, no petition, no single-use return, no entry point of any kind. They wander. The text also describes Azazel, the watcher bound in the valley of Dudael. Fragment 4Q201 is specific about the binding depth. 70 generations of years. Under rocks. In darkness. Separated from both the mountain chambers and from the wandering spirits. A distinct confinement with a distinct duration and a distinct location. He had no way to know. No ancient cartographer had mapped a location called Dudael with binding specifications measured in generational years. Yet the text provides coordinates, a valley, a depth of confinement, a duration, with the precision of a field report. Now consider what electromagnetic anomaly research has recorded at the Bashan Plateau. Bashan sits at 33 degrees north latitude. Ancient texts, including Enoch, identify it as a location associated with giant burial grounds and the activity of these wandering spirits. Independent field research conducted at Bashan and surrounding sites has recorded persistent, low-frequency field disturbances below 8 Hz. Below 8 Hz is the lower boundary of the Schumann resonance range. No known geological formation in the region accounts for the readings. No fault line. No underground water movement. No magnetic ore deposit matches the signature. The disturbances are persistent, not periodic. They move. Enoch called them wandering spirits barred from return. The field data records something still moving in those locations. Same phenomenon, different century. The readings are still there, still measurable, still carrying no geological explanation. What Enoch mapped in those 4 chambers has never stopped operating. The manuscript is 2,000 years old. The fragment is under glass in Jerusalem, and the data is still checkable today. Fragment 4Q204 sits in Jerusalem right now. The text of Enoch 22 is publicly cataloged in the Dead Sea Scrolls database, verifiable today by anyone. MS Ethiopian 105 is digitized at gallica.bnf.fr. The Ethiopic manuscripts remain in Addis Ababa and Paris, measurable and open. 4 chambers, 4 fates. The law Uriel described to Enoch has not been amended. No council revised it, no later text overturned it. It is still running. And somewhere beneath the record of every soul that has ever existed, the division Enoch witnessed holds, quiet, precise, and entirely indifferent to whether we believe it. Which chamber do you think holds the most souls right now? Leave your answer below. Subscribe if the hidden architecture of the afterlife is what you came here to find.